The Pima County Adult Probation Learn Lab is a GED study program open to all legal residents 18 and over. We offer classes and individualized instruction for all subjects of the GED test, as well as career and college advice. For more information, click the link below. Greetings. Today we're going to take a look at the world of political cartoons. If you haven't watched the video on political language, you might want to check that out. It'll give you a little bit better idea of what you're looking at, mainly because a lot of what we're going to be talking about is symbols and specific language. It is a very specific type of reading. It is reading that's going to help you with reading a lot of other things, because it's going to really push you away from taking things literally, and you're going to have to start looking at things figuratively. In other words, what does this mean beyond just the words? You're also going to need knowledge of current events. It's where a lot of this stuff with political cartoons really starts to come in. So, with that disclaimer, let's go ahead and get started. So as I said, the world of politics is full of symbols and colors and meanings. So just this little cartoon here, we've got a little donkey guy he's got blue boxer shorts on, blue gloves, and then we have a little elephant looking guy, and he's got red boxers and red gloves. These are symbols of the two main political parties here in the United States. In this case, the Democrat is the donkey. He's a representative of the Democratic Party. They also kind of claim the color blue. The Republican mascot is the elephant, and they lay claim to the color red. So that's really kind of the symbol language that is just kind of the basis to get you started on looking at these things. So we'll start off with this cartoon here. One of the first things that you need to do is just take a look at it. Describe what you see. In this case, we've got a globe, obviously Earth, floating out there in space, and then we have two little moons off to the side. Okay, one of the moons is blue, it's got a little donkey looking guy standing on it, and the other moon is red, a little elephant guy standing on it. So here again we see that symbols of mascots and colors. So you've got Earth kind of in the middle, and out in outer space you've got the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. So this is what is all being said here, just with the visual, before we even worry about the words. And then we see a little balloon there raising up saying, they used to be just on the opposite sides of the aisle. Okay? When they're talking about the aisle, that means they're talking about being in Congress, in government. You've got an aisle that generally ran between the two parties. Okay? So they used to just be on opposite ends of the aisle, meaning there used to be a time when they would at least talk to each other. Now we are so far apart, they're on their own little moons, and you notice they're both kind of standing there, they've got their arms crossed, they're both looking kind of grumpy, they're both glaring at each other. Okay, this stuff isn't done by accident. The artist that creates this, they come up with these images very specifically. And so the statement here is, the two parties have grown so far apart that nothing can happen. They're not talking to each other, they are distrustful of each other, and that's partly why, or possibly even mainly why, government isn't working. At least in this author's opinion. Political cartoons aren't necessarily always commenting on politics. Again, like I said, you need to be well versed in current events. In this case, we've got a ball with all these little red silo cups all over it. Okay? And it looks an awful lot like those pictures you see of coronavirus. Okay? Coronavirus is very much in the news right now. And here we've got a coronavirus looking thing, only instead of the little whatevers that are the hairs of the virus, they're these red silo cups. Okay? Most of us, when we think of red silo cups, we think about a party, right? Because that's where you use those things at most of the time. And actually down there, if you look at the very bottom of the globe there, it says college parties. Okay? So this is sort of a commentary on colleges reopening and college students possibly not thinking very well, going and having a party, and possibly spreading the disease around a lot more than it already is spread. So the point that's trying to be made here is perhaps we need to take another look at reopening schools, specifically in this case colleges. Kind of along the same theme, talking about schools and coronavirus, we've got here again, just take a look at the picture. Think about what you see. Okay, you got a little kid, he's on his computer, he's pointing at the dog. Okay, up at the top left corner it says the #1 online learning scam. And then the little kid saying, our dog deleted my homework. And you can kind of see he's got this little, this little sweat thing coming off of his head right here. The dog is looking kind of angry because the kid's basically throwing him under the bus. And then, also you notice the dog even has his own little cell phone, and the little quail there saying, "What did you tweet? Not possible." Okay. So here again, just sort of a commentary on online school. It's a joke on the whole thing that teachers always used to hear. "Well, why didn't you do your homework? My dog ate my homework." Well, in the digital age now, it's "the dog deleted my homework." Again, here we are looking at current events. Okay, we aren't just alone here in Arizona. This is a whole big nation. We've got a lot of things going on here. So if we look at this again, we see on the left side a little green thing labeled coronavirus. The eyes are kind of looking off to the side. You see again those little things, all the coronavirus always seems to have those little hairy things all over them. And standing next to the coronavirus there is this sort of, if you ever watch the news, the weather reports, they always show the satellite image, that big swirling cloud of a hurricane, and in fact it's labeled hurricane season. And the hurricane season is saying, "Move over." And then you look down at the bottom, there's that one little guy that's kind of looking pretty harassed. He's got the kind of eyes wide open. He's like, "Oh my gosh, what's going to happen now?" Just commentary on current events. We haven't even gotten the coronavirus under control, and now we're heading into hurricane season. And they're looking at it being a very violent hurricane season. So again, we're just sort of commenting on what next? What's going to happen next? This is kind of like the hits just keep on coming. So they're not always political issues. They don't need to have words. Okay? There are no words here. This is all figurative. But you definitely can sort of see the message in this case. Take a look at that picture. There's a lot going on there for a seemingly simple drawing. I mean, the first glance is it's like the TV is that big mouth that's getting ready to devour the guy. Obvious message that TV is sort of overpowering things. There's a lot of stuff happening here though. #1 is the comparative size. Okay? That TV is huge, especially compared to the guy in the chair, right? It's massive. It's not just this little thing that's sort of taking over. It's this huge, massive thing that is much larger than this poor guy sitting in his chair. You can see it straining at the cord. So it's not just really, it's really trying to get him. The other thing that I like about this, really kind of subtle, is you can see down here on the bottom, the guy's dropped the remote. Okay? Again, these are very subtle little things that we can see here, but if he's dropped the remote, he's lost control. So even there, again, you see figurative language. There's no words here, but we can tell the story. We can figure it out that we, because that guy's sort of a symbol of all of us, of society, we have lost control of this huge thing that is threatening to devour us. Okay? The more you start to look at those little symbols, the more it kind of starts to give more meaning. Even the fact that there's really nothing else in that room, right? He doesn't have his family with him. There's no artwork. There's nothing. There's not even a carpet. It's just this guy in his chair he's going to get devoured by this big TV. Sort of makes a fairly strong statement the more you sit there and look at it. Here's another one with very little words. All right, we're going to pause here for a second. I know you've been listening to me yammer for a while about these cartoons, and this is where you get to do the home version of the game. Get out a sheet of paper, and I just want you to write down for this one right now, what do you see? Okay? That's all we're looking for at this point, is just observations. Okay? Don't worry about interpretation or anything like that. Just write down what you see, because that's the first step. It is also showing some symbols that you are supposed to know. Okay? In this case, this is a statue that is on or around or in or on the wall of pretty much every courthouse in the United States. Okay? This statue is known as Lady Justice. There's a couple, she's always got that scale, right? Because the scale, she's weighing right and wrong. And she's actually normally supposed to be blindfolded. It's blind justice. She's just listening to the facts. Only here, you can see the blindfold has been lifted up. And she's looking at a smartphone. Okay? In this case, there's actually the words on this phone saying, Jacob Blake shooting. There's any number of ways to take this. We definitely see that Justice is watching these shootings, and if you kind of look at her face, she looks kind of angry. Again, the artists, you know, they don't do this stuff by mistake. They're pretty skilled artists, most of them. So she's watching these shootings involving police, and she's actually trying to be aware of it and possibly starting the judgment process. There could be an argument that the artist here is saying that with the proliferation of all these cell phones that are taking video of these things that are happening, that justice cannot happen because justice is supposed to be blind. She's not supposed to be swayed by media. And yet these cell phone videos are everywhere, so how can she escape seeing them? Okay, that could be one way you could interpret this. Another way you could interpret it is, these events are so horrible, how can Justice not see this and be disgusted and want to do something about it? And this is where, when you start playing with political cartoons, you really kind of need to keep an eye on it all the time. It's not a world that you can just kind of drift in, check things out, and then drift out again. Because you'll start to learn certain artists have opinions on what they're commenting on. That's why these cartoons are frequently under the opinion page in the newspaper or whatever. They're expressing an opinion. The more you get to know them, the more you start to see where they sit on that political spectrum that we talked about in the video on political language. Are they liberal? Are they conservative? Are they Democrat? Are they Republican? Okay? That can also start to color what the artist is trying to say. Up next on the hit parade, we have this cartoon here. All right, pausing again. Here we go. Right, just like last time, what do you see? That's it. That's your first step. What do you see? Once you've written that down, we're going to add an extra step now because you're starting to get some practice. The next thing you're going to be looking for, what issue is being talked about? Okay? After you figure out what it is that you see, what is it talking about? That's the second step you need to be looking at. So, that's what you're writing down on the Shit the Pepper for this time around. So again, you always start, just look at the picture. What do you see? Okay, we've got a little kid sitting there with his arms crossed. He's on a tire swing. The tire is broken. Okay, he's got a red hat on with MAGA on it. And it's a Goodyear tire. On its own, it might give you a little giggle looking at this kid that's irritated that his tire swing broke. Knowing the current event that is being commented on, it starts to become a little bit deeper. Okay? MAGA stands for Make America Great Again. This is the slogan used by Donald Trump. His supporters are frequently wearing the hats that have that slogan on it. The hats are always red. Okay? Goodyear Tire is an American company that makes tires. Recently, there were some employees of Goodyear that were very vocal in their disappointment that they were not allowed to wear their MAGA hats when they were at work. Goodyear replied with a statement basically saying, look, we don't want politics from anybody's party. We don't care if you're supporting Joe Biden. We don't care if you're supporting Donald Trump. We don't want him in the building because it creates problems. And that was Goodyear's reply to the complaints that these people were not allowed to wear their Donald Trump hats. Donald Trump waved into the argument, started calling for a boycott of Goodyear, and talking about how horrible Goodyear was for not allowing these people to wear their hats. So now you have a sitting American president saying we should be boycotting an American company because they won't let people wear hats that they want to wear. With that current event knowledge in mind, it takes a different meaning. It's now no longer a picture of this little kid that's irritated that his swing broke. It's a picture of adults acting like children, breaking the very thing that is going to support them. So the commentary becomes, these people are so busy freaking out about not being allowed to wear a hat, they're going to create job loss, and that's going to hurt the economy, and it's going to create a lot of problems. So reading these cartoons, like I said, it's equal part current event, equal part figurative language. The other thing you can do is there's a website called Go Comics. That's where I get the majority of these comics from. If you go on there, there's actually a place where people comment and discuss them. So that's also kind of a good sort of way to wade in and read those comments, and you can sort of hear what people are saying about it. More commenting on current events. In this case, we have presidential election coming up. In the last few weeks, we've had a Democratic convention and we've had a Republican convention. This is part of how we elect a president. Each party has their own convention where they get together and they say, this is going to be our person that we're going to run for president. All right, pausing again. Back to your paper. Step one, what do you see? This will be the third time around for this, so you should be pretty good at it. Next step, what issue is being talked about? Okay, after you've described it, just a basic observation, now you're branching out into that world of what is going on. What are we talking about right now? That's your next step. You're going to be writing those two things down, adding to your list of stuff to do. Do you think this author is liberal or conservative? Now you're getting away from the concrete into more interpretive stuff. The real good way to know this is actually to hang out and study this stuff more often and sort of keep up with what's going on. Okay? Democrats had their convention. They officially nominated Joe Biden, and this is sort of a commentary on that. Joe Biden, you'll frequently see drawings of him. He's got that big smile. Again, that's sort of a caricature, but you're going to see a lot of that. Again, also notice, again, that political language. He's on the center track as opposed to the left or the right track. So we're saying, hey, the Democrats have nominated this guy that is more central. Okay, he's not left-wing, he's not right-wing, he's sort of middle of the road. You get into judgment. Some people say that's a good thing. Middle-of-the-road candidate's going to appeal to the most people. Then you got other people that are saying, well, he's not right enough or he's not left enough. He's not exciting. He's middle of the road. Who cares? So we're not going to vote for him. That's a judgment call. But this very nicely illustrates how those terms are used, left, right, and center. All right. We're actually going to stop at this point because we've covered an awful lot of ground. You're going to need some time to think about it. Take some look at your notes, those questions you answered on those last few cartoons. And what I want you to do is take a picture of those notes, scan them, however you can make them into a digital format, and send them off to me in an email. Okay? Do that and you'll get some credit for some class time, which is a good thing. Come back later. We're going to continue this discussion with Political Cartoons Part 2. Dun dun dun!